nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. And unlike any other episode that we've done in the past couple months, we have game action to talk about. Week 1 for the Baltimore Ravens, at least, in the books. This is our instant reaction and breakdown of the game. We're really excited. But before we get into that, we know you're as excited as we are. So go ahead, take 2 seconds, subscribe. And at the end of the show, make sure to comment, leave a like. And we'd love to interact with you guys. And if you're interested in interacting more, getting a shout out on the show, any other ways you can interact with us, check out our Patreon, all in the description below. But without any further ado, Glenn, let's get right into it and start with some scores, the score, and some stats. Let's hear it. What do you got for us?
All right, let's go. So the Baltimore Ravens win in week 1, 38-6 over the Cleveland Browns. Man, they look good in week 1s, Jimbo.
What do you like to say? They turned their back porch red?
Oh, they certainly did. They pulled their pants down and spanked their bare bottom in front of everyone on national television. That's right. Lamar Jackson, another epic performance, another fantastic showing. He goes 20 of 25 for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. No interceptions. And on the ground, again, our leading rusher. Now, not his finest day on the ground, but 7 carries for 45 yards, averaged 6.5 a carry. Not a bad day. I mean, certainly wouldn't expect, I think, going into this game that 45 yards would be your leading rusher, but they decided to attack him through the air in this one.
Yeah, and not only that, we had a lot of guys rush the ball.
Yeah.
They kept true to their word, and we'll talk about this a little more, but they kept true to their word. Gus was in there a lot more than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, well, Gus got a lot of carries at the end of the game.
Yeah, but even there were some times when we started on that one, who was in there?
Big fella.
That's right. So let's get into it. The score, like you said, let's get into some stats. The first stat before we get into anything that's serious here is I want to point this out, and this makes me so happy. All right, Baker Mayfield, of course, threw an interception in the first quarter, in the first drive. And that is now his 36th interception since 2018. Second in the league since he's been in the league. Go Baker. All right, let's get into some serious stats here. Let's talk about the Ravens, and let's get right into the offensive side of the ball and talk about the passing game for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson was 20 for 25, insanely efficient. Insanely efficient. 275 yards for 3 touchdowns. Glenn, RG3 even got some action, just like we like
as
it, right?
usual. He's the cleanup. He's the closer. He comes in and lets Lamar take the fourth quarter off. It's kind of typical of how things go. But yeah, I mean, it was a great performance. Let's see. Let's talk about some of the other running backs, because I think the biggest thing coming in was who was going to be the leading ball carrier. Was it going to be Mark Ingram? Was it going to be Dobbins? And it ends up being Mark Ingram, though. Nobody really had a great game on the ground outside of Lamar, but even by his standards, it wasn't great. But Mark Ingram ends up with 10 carries for 29 yards, 2.9 a carry, obviously well below his standards. J.K. gets 7 carries for 22 yards. He does get the 2 touchdowns, however, which it was kind of interesting to see him get the early goal line work. I mean, it's not like these were long runs. These were relatively short runs inside the 5. So, were you surprised to see J.K. getting the early short yardage work, certainly at the goal line?
No, you know what I thought when I saw it? I liked it because it was almost like a change of pace where we got big guys in there, but J.K. we kind of that scenario played out as a race to the goal line, not like I'm just going to plow through you, but I'm going to race you to this line. And J.K. is your guy to do it if it's not Lamar,
right?
As far as you're talking about a 5-yard, 1-yard, that red zone type quickness. JK's your guy, and he showed out there. This is the other thing I'll mention. Only one of our running backs averaged over 4 yards a carry. Oh, Gus Edwards.
Old Gussie. Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, though, it's exciting. Like you said, none of them had a crazy good game, but it's exciting to know that we have 3 really good running backs, man. And it is just, man, it gets me excited.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we haven't seen Justice Hill yet, and honestly, I don't see why you would need to bring up a 4th and make a 4th running back active after what we saw. But I will say one thing. Let me just say this. Obviously a great performance, but please, Greg Roman, do not hand the ball to Project Pat Ricard.
Please.
1 yard,
1 carry for -5 yards.
And a fumble. And it looked like he didn't know how to take a handoff. And I understand why, because he doesn't take handoffs very often. He's by far our worst skill position player, if you want to count him like that. Great at what he does do well, which is block. Not great with the ball in his hands. So why don't we just let one of the other very talented skill position players take the ball next time? And I think Greg Roman, I would not be surprised if that might be the only carry for Pat Ricard this year. And
Yeah.
I'd be hopeful if that was, because, man, that hurt.
But I will tell you, though, that I think it was in the next drive we got the ball. He made a nice catch for that first down. But
Yep.
it's so weird that, like, I feel like the level of difficulty on that play was so much more than the run. But he looked so much more athletic and smooth and comfortable when he was catching it, turning upfield and hitting for that first down than he was. Like you said, he was duck waddling to the line of scrimmage with the ball in his hands, and then he got popped.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, he got – and he never really looked like he even had the ball. So
right. It was weird.
Yeah, I just hope that they learn from that, and we won't be seeing any more of Allen or Pat Ricard taking the ball.
Yeah, so let's get into the passing game here and talk about our wide receivers. I want to start with, of course, the talk of the town, Marquis Brown. I mean, his development in this, you saw his – I don't think it's just about health. Of course, health is a big deal, and he looks strong and he looks quick. But I think you're really starting to see his commitment to his craft. Some technical pieces of the game or of his route running and then attacking the ball. He did it both on the long ball, the intermediate passes, the short passes. He looked great. He had 101 yards, 5 catches on 6 targets. What was your take on Hollywood? And then we'll get into some other guys.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. I thought the defense obviously respects Hollywood and make sure that they have him accounted for. But he still was able to make plays. That one pitch and catch that Lamar threw an absolute dime, a beauty, and it was pretty. It was a beautiful spiral and all that, because a lot of times when Lamar, he might get it on there, but it might not be the prettiest spiral.
Right.
This time he threw a pretty ball today. I mean, he had a couple. I know the one he was throwing against his body that came up well short that probably should have been picked off. But that was really the only poor throw of the day. That throw to Marquis was on the money, beautiful, and it was good coverage. It's not like he had a ton of separation there, but also, of course, a great catch by Marquis. I mean, he's just incredible. The guy's got number one receiver hands. If a ball is supposed to be caught, he's going to catch it. And I'm just excited to see him continue to grow into that yards after catch role that we're expecting him to get more of this year. Didn't really see it in this one. Still kind of saw the – keeping his body safe. I didn't see any crazy make you miss moves out there, but still happy with his performance. Another good week 1 out of Marquis.
Absolutely. So let's go down the line here and talk about some of these other players getting in the receiving game, and we'll kind of set aside the tight ends here. But as far as receivers goes, of course, Willie Snead had 4 for 64 and a touchdown. He had 4 for 4 on his targets, as normal, extremely reliable. We schemed him open, and he took advantage of his touches. Miles Boykin, I thought, flashed, had some plays where he's showing some progression, but I will say you saw old Miles when he got out of his break late. And I think that was that also in the first drive? I think that was in the drive I think it was the drive right before the half where we scored a touchdown. But anyway, he broke on the left side of the field. He broke late out of his route on the comeback, and he was late getting his head around, and he didn't make the catch. Where if he had been there earlier, and got his head around earlier, he would have made that catch, maybe had a touchdown. But I want to talk about 2 guys real quick, Glenn. I want to talk about our rookies, Devin Duvernay and James Prochet. What got you excited, man?
Well, first and foremost, I love what I saw out of the return game from both guys. Devin Duvernay seems like he's the answer at kick return. He was fast with the ball, decisive with the ball, and most importantly, he was fearless on a kick return, which is what you have to be if you're going to be a productive kick returner. He went right up the middle. He was not scared to put the pedal to the metal and try and get some yards, and he had one big return. And also, I liked seeing him in the screen game. He caught that ball, got right upfield, ran strong, showed his old running back roots, and I thought he had a nice 12-yard gain. And as far as Prochet, it's good to see. It looks like they found their fit at punt return. And that is really what we didn't get to see him catch the ball on offense, which I'm sure we will at some point. They definitely spread the ball around a lot in this game to a bunch of different guys. He wasn't one of them. But most importantly, he showed that he can make He can catch the ball in punt. Now, look, there was the one that he said, that got a little windy up there, and he ended up letting it bounce and ended up going all the way down the 1 yard line. Not thrilled there. Want to see him go up and make the catch, call a fair catch. But after that, he was excellent. He caught the ball well. He got up the field, got as many yards as he could. And, yeah, so I was happy to see it. Well, I mean, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I love that Duvernay took advantage of every opportunity in any way that he had to touch the ball.
Yep.
And like you said, now that we understand that he has more of a running back pass than even a wide receiver pass, it's fun to watch the way he runs.
Yeah.
Because he has no hesitation running in a crowd. He has no hesitation about making contact. And in fact, I'm sure that there's a lot of time that he engages in that contact, right?
Yep.
Himself. He's the instigator. So that's exciting to see. And like you said, it's nice to see I don't know, Prochet so far, he makes me feel confident that he's going to make the catch. He's going to come down with it. And that's the number one thing there. So I was happy about them. The rookies overall in this game, I mean, let's not forget Tyree. I'm kind of jumping around. Look, I'm super excited right now.
Yeah.
Okay? I am going a million miles an hour because, man, this game was awesome. And I'm sure you guys are as well. But Tyree Phillips, I mean, if it's all right with you, let's kind of parlay this over into the offensive line. He started over DJ Fluker, a former first-round pick. Only, I think he's in like his 8th year in the league. DJ is a bona fide starter in most teams. And Tyree Phillip, moving from tackle to guard, outplayed him and played well today.
Yeah, that's you're right. I think it's going to be overshadowed by all the great play around him. But the fact that a guy who has very limited experience playing football as is, now you're asking him to not only make the leap from college to pro, but you're asking him to do that and change positions and compete with a guy like DJ Fluker, who admittedly came in and cut his BMI in half this offseason. He's in the best shape of his life. He's a physically imposing force, and he beat him out for the job. So, I mean, I'm thrilled because that must mean that Phillips was unbelievable in camp. I mean, everyone expected Fluker to come right in and take over for Yonda after he retired, but it's not the case. And it's nice because now you got a veteran like Fluker who can be that super utility guy. As we saw in this game when Stanley went out, we need a guy who can come in, play tackle. He can play guard. He can do both. So, man, that's exciting, man, to see him and surprising a little bit, because of the position change and how new he is. Surprising to see it, but I'm happy.
Yeah, I like that he did a lot of the stuff. Ken McCusick on our show talked about how much Yonda did as far as helping out, right? Like other stuff other than his assignments. And I saw, I paid attention. I tried to as much as I could pay attention to that. And I saw Tyree doing some of that and getting physical on those, on those help blocks and things like that and really laying the wood. So that was exciting. He showed no fear. Right. I'm just saying this is way too early, but we had another guy that started at right tackle in college, came into guard, played that right guard position, had a heck of a career. So hopefully we get some sort of semblance.
He's no Yonda yet, but I like your enthusiasm.
Right. Look, I'm on cloud 9, baby. All right.
Yeah. Well, after that, okay, well, let's get into maybe the player of a lot of people's game, Mr. Mark Andrews and these tight ends, because I think there was a lot of concern, or at least some concern, when they broke camp with just 2 natural tight ends on the roster. But, man, I mean, I think those concerns are gone because Mark Andrews is problems for people. He is problems. And his connection with Lamar makes him even more problems.
Look, I'm calling it. Look, I'm way too into this right now. All pro this year. All pro.
That hyperextended knee of Kittle might help because it looks like he might be a little bit slowed down. But the catches that Mark Andrews made
are insane.
They're ridiculous. Obviously the one-handed catch that was thrown high. Not only was it thrown high, but it was a rocket ship by Lamar, and he snared it right out of the air. But also the amount of catches he makes where a defender is draped all over him, and it just doesn't matter. He somehow pulls it in, and it might not always be pretty. It might be moving a little bit as he's going down, but it don't ever hit the ground. I mean, he's just – the catch he made where he jumped – he's going up the seam route, and he jumps and catches it over the guy's head. The fact that Lamar even throws that ball is incredible. It just shows the faith that they have in one another. And, man, Andrews just impressive, man. And I would not at all be shocked. He had 10 touchdowns as a second-year player. But I would not be shocked if this season he puts up 13 to 15 touchdowns at all.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Torrey Smith's tweet said it best. As soon as he scored the second touchdown, he was like, he said something like, "Newsflash, Mark Andrews has 5,000 touchdowns this year." Because that's what it feels. I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? Like, I'll tell you what was awesome. Charles Davis, of course, one of the announcers during the game was trying to, and it's funny, I think a lot of teams that aren't familiar with Mark Andrews, that are studying for that week for him, they see him and they see his size and they automatically group him in with guys that are of the same ilk of a Nick Boyle, of these big guys that are physically imposing, blocking players, and they always sleep on his agility. His agility, his mobility overall, his lateral quickness, route running, hands, all those things. He was trying to explain how a guy can be that big and move that well. And he was having a hard time with it. You know what I mean? It's just incredible. He's in phenomenal shape. Obviously, did a lot in the offseason. Man, I hope he stays healthy because all pro, baby. All pro. I am all in on the purple Kool-Aid right now. It's bad. All right, where are we going next?
All right, well, let's flip over to the other side of the ball and talk about some defensive players.
And how bad the Browns' offense was.
Yeah, because let me just say this. Defensively, your Ravens can cover. I mean, they can cover on the back end. I mean, all I know is Odell Beckham Jr. looked frustrated. He looked overmatched, and he looked pretty pissed off at Baker in a couple occasions. And I think it looked like Peters and Humphrey looked at their matchups every time Odell was there and said, and like kind of amped it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you remember that play where Peters broke up the ball, almost picked it off. The excitement. Yes. I mean, I'm not going to imitate what he was doing, but I heard that it's something about back shots. I don't know exactly, but I know he was doing something like this. And look, all I know is they got up for this game.
Yes.
And Odell Beckham looked completely outmatched.
Ugh. And you know what he looked like? He looked like doo-doo.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Oh, I tell you what, he was terrible. That 3rd and 2 drop that he had, you know what that means to me? He was absolutely razzled.
And let's talk about that 3rd and 2 drop. I'm glad you mentioned that up because that was maybe the sequence of the game.
Yep,
because
the turning point. Big
exactly. Time. Because it's 14-6. The Browns are moving the ball right before half. They look like they're at least going to get 3. At the very least, they're going to get 3. Of course, later on we saw that their kicker's not so great. But they look like they're at least going to get 3 before half. And he drops a wide open 3rd and 2 catch. Just drops it wide open. And then what I love the best, and of course they go on to miss the field goal right after that, so they end up getting no points. And then the best part is that the Ravens don't just go into the half happy with their lead. They put the pedal to the metal and they turn it into 7 points and just totally take them out of the game. I mean, it just totally demoralized the Browns, and it certainly took OBJ's head out of the game. And they go in 35 seconds. They go 69 yards, and they score a touchdown. And of course, Mark Andrews caps it off. And it's funny because I had a bunch of friends, I had a couple of friends over for the game. And every 3rd down, I said, here we go. Type in the cheat code, Ravens. Type in the Lamar Jackson cheat code because that's what he is. And sure enough, he delivered again. Pinpoint pass right to Andrews. It wasn't even like a fancy route. It was just like, Andrews, run up like 7 yards, and I'm just going to throw it between all the defenders and score a touchdown on you. It's beautiful. So, that was the turning point of the game, and I think, when they go up 24-6 with no time left, it was pretty much over from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to remind all of you that I am the absolute prophet when it comes to that's right, PROPHET, as in I see into the future when it comes to the Cleveland Browns.
You are a Browns Miss Cleo.
I tell you what, look, Baker, doo-doo.
He is. It just shows that as good as their roster might be on paper, if you don't have a quarterback, that one most important position, it's like I heard somebody comparing because we're playing the Texans next week and the difference in their roster. And I would give the edge in every position on the offense to the Browns, except for one, the most important one, right, and that's the quarterback position. And you can't do nothing without a quarterback.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, yeah. So I tell you what, there's a couple of things I got to say that the Browns did well. I think that is probably the most fierce running attack And they've had some. I mean, Hunt looked good on some plays. Chubb looked
didn't.
good. He had some nice plays though. You're right. I mean, he was relatively
He had that
inconsistent,
39-yard run. Yeah.
had the fumble, but I think that as far as those two guys go, what other than Derrick Henry, what other running attack is going to be that good that we play against on the schedule?
Yeah, on paper it was,
right.
But it just wasn't good today. But that could be, more of a reflection on the
That's
Ravens.
what I'm saying. That's what I mean. Is that like if we were able to at least manage it, right? Like
right. Oh, more than manage it, completely shut it down. I mean,
right.
Chubb to me was not a factor. He had 10 carries for. I guess he was 10 carries for 60 yards, but really he had 1 carry for 40.
Right.
And then the other 9 for 20.
Back.
So I mean, you take that away, and he had really 9 for 20.
And I'll tell you what, all of the other guys. So and then you said this before the show. Their defensive front is really good. Yeah, they're a force.
Yeah.
Right. You got Sheldon Richardson. You got Myles Garrett. You got Obi Genobi. You got Billy.
Who is that?
Obi Genobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I'm bad at pronouncing his name too, but he's a player and he made some plays today. Yeah.
And so my point being is that while we made the Browns look silly, once again, drinking the purple Kool-Aid, I think it is much more. This win was much more about good Ravens than just bad Browns. I think the Browns will have some good wins this year. I just think we're that damn good.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think I was expecting this game to be more competitive because of that front. And we saw Myles Garrett make plays. He flashed at times. I saw him make a really nice play against Orlando Brown Jr. and stuff a run play in the backfield. And it's not often you see any defensive player be able to stonewall Orlando Brown when he wants to move forward and then just dispose of him the way he did. But behind that front four, which is impressive, it gets pretty bad for the Browns, especially when you consider all the injuries they've had. Now, if Greedy Williams was in there and Kevin Johnson was in there and Mac Wilson, the linebacker, got hurt. If he's in there, maybe it's a different story. If Grant Delpit's in there, maybe it's a different story. But they weren't, and every team has to deal with injuries. It just seems like it hit them in key areas on defense, and I don't know how unless they start getting – I mean, obviously Greedy, he needs to come back, but they're going to struggle on defense if you can somehow minimize the damage from their front four. And their offense, shockingly unimpressive today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think less is more. Like, I think they need to offload Odell, get a haul for him, and let Landry be your true number one. Like, he's a great player. He's a great run blocker. He's a great leader. Yeah, all of it, dude. He's Anquan Bolden reincarnated. Like, that's Absolutely. The way you know what I mean? So, the other thing I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, we got to stay on the defensive side of the ball, and we got to talk about a couple other guys because – wow. Did Calais take long to make sure he had his name called? I mean, this guy is incredible. Like you said, he got the interception. While Humphrey got the interception, it was clearly that play was made by Calais Campbell. Yeah. Him dropping into coverage and using that ridiculous size and arm length to bat balls away.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, he's done that in the past, but I think most people would expect him to be rushing the quarterback, right? Not dropping into coverage. And I think Baker thought that as well, and which is why he was surprised. But just the ones I counted, I didn't even pull it up in front of me. 3 pass deflections.
Yeah. I
mean, the guy is a force. Now, I will say this. I do remember on that long run by Chubb that Calais was late to get into the game. He barely got lined up over the right tackle when the ball was snapped, and then he immediately slanted across the line of scrimmage and gave Chubb a wide open cutback lane and did lead to a big run. But outside of that, he was phenomenal today. I mean, he leads by example, but also with a voice. And man, it was fun to see him play well, but also not happy with his play, understanding in his post-game conference that he can play better and that he will play better. It's exciting to see what he can do.
Oh my gosh. I loved watching him play and the impact. I had someone ask me if he was a rookie. I said, no, he's 34 years old, 14th year in the league, if I'm not mistaken, playing with a lot of speed, physicality. The most shocking part to me was that 2 of his batted balls, I swear they hit his forearm. They didn't even, like, he was so high up. They hit his elbow and crap. Like, they didn't even hit his hand. Like, he's so Yeah, so
he's always been a guy that makes pass deflections, and that causes turnovers.
Yeah, and overall, the two things that are two huge takeaways for me from this game, Glenn, are and you said this before the show started, is the impact of the rookies.
Yep.
Huge. And the home runs so far, week 1, but I'm all in, baby. Mm-hmm. Of the free agency acquisitions that we've picked up, right? Derek Wolfe had made his impact known. You saw some plays where he, up the run game and had some real interior push. And then obviously Calais Campbell. And look, the other thing I want to mention, we're staying on the defensive side of the ball. I didn't miss Earl Thomas.
No. And Deshaun Elliott played well. I thought he brought some pop to most hits. He was the finishing hit. It's like there was guys drag, and then he'd just come in and be the finishing blow and knock them down. I thought he played well. I mean, he didn't, he did. I don't think he had any pass deflections or anything like that. But he played well. There was no glaring breakdowns in coverage, nothing like that. So I was impressed. And then you talk about the additions through free agency, but also the rookies with Queen. He not only gets a sack, by the way, when he's blitzing, he looks like a blur.
Did you see the one that he got blew up on, though?
Yeah, he took a shot. Yeah, that'll happen. Whoa! Yeah. I thought he had a wide open look. But he did get a sack.
Yep.
He got a great forced fumble where he just ripped the ball out of Chubb's hands.
No easy task.
The defense in tackles, which, if you remember, who predicted that he would do that. Of course, that I'm no Nostradamus picking that, but yeah. So he led the team in tackles, had a sack and a forced fumble in his first start. And by the way, he's if I remember correctly, the second youngest player in the entire NFL.
Oh my gosh! And on top, just to really quickly, of course, staying on rookies, Dobbins, first rookie in franchise history to have 2 touchdowns on his first carry. I think 40. They said 43 or 47. Of the guys on our roster are homegrown guys or something insane like that. I mean, it just –
Yeah, and then there's another incredible amount of drafted players from the Ravens that are on other rosters. And that's even a record.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible. So, yeah, I loved seeing, like you said, Malik Harrison and Patrick Queen getting out there early. If they didn't start together, I mean, like you said, play 2 or 3, they were out there together. As far as I know on Malik Harrison, it was fun to see his range. Mm-hmm. He has range. I mean, I thought he was going to be a little more of a lumberer and a straight line guy. He's got all that, but he's got range, especially, when he's asked to drop back a little bit. We saw last year some passes going over that CJ would have been in position for. I'm confident that both of these guys have the range to get in position to make those plays similar to what CJ used to do.
Yeah, I thought they looked great. I was kind of shocked to see him pretty much getting the start. I mean, they certainly got the bulk of the snaps at the inside linebacker position, and that's awesome. I mean, that means they played well in camp and they earned those spots. They don't just give those out.
All right.
And then even you look behind them, while maybe his impact was more felt on special teams, but Fort played phenomenal. That way he blew up that fake punt, took on the blocker, shed him, made a perfect tackle, and knocked the ball loose. Whether that was, that didn't really help much at all, but he sheds the blocker, makes a perfect form tackle. I mean, I just feel like we see why they kept so many inside linebackers. They're good players. Alaka was in there making plays on special teams as well. This is why they kept those guys, because the best players are kept. And whether that's, more inside linebackers, maybe not as many corners, whatever. The best players make the team. And I think that was kind of a display of that.
Yeah, and didn't he even recover the fumble from Patrick Queen?
He may have.
I think he recovered that fumble as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. His impact was felt. So it was super exciting for me to see as well. So why don't we do this? If you don't have any other game notes, do you want to move into the press conference?
Yeah, let's get into it because lots of availability today. I don't know if it was normal or it seemed like a lot of players and coaches were available today.
Yeah, and before you do, Glenn, I don't mean to cut you off. For all you that are about to hop off, we're about to name our players of the game, so stay on as we get through the press conference stuff right here, all right?
Well, I think it was kind of cool stuff in the press conference.
Yeah, I agreed.
The one thing I heard from everyone was BYOE. When they were all asked, how did it feel not having any fans out there? They said, bring your own energy today, boys, and they certainly did it. I don't know about you, Jimbo. I didn't miss the fans. I hate to say it because I love the fans being there. I can't wait till they're back. But because the sport and the camera angle, you don't see the fans until they pan out. You don't ever see them in typical broadcast, camera angle. I didn't miss him. Did you?
I hear you. I didn't necessarily miss him, but this is the one thing I will say. I didn't think it was an advantage. However, watching the KC game with 1/4 of their fans there, I think it is an unfair advantage for them to have because it's so
Where
much
others
louder.
Don't. Right.
That Thursday night game was so much louder than our game.
Well, let me say this, though. To that point, they asked multiple players how it was playing with no fans, and they said the communication was so much easier on defense because at home, typically the fans are going nuts when you're on defense.
Yeah.
They could talk, they could communicate, but not only that, they could hear the other team communicating and hear what they were doing. So while now I'm not advocating for the fans to not come back because, believe me, when they can, I will be one of them that will be in there, and I can't wait. But I'll just say that it didn't I've heard a lot of fans say that the loss of fans in other sports have really impacted their enjoyability of watching the games. It didn't for me, and I was happy because I was worried about that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out, and that they did BYOE. They did bring their own energy, and we got too many good leaders to let these guys, come in flat. So that was really exciting. What I liked seeing, J.K. Dobbins credited his teammates with the performance and basically said he just feels blessed to be a part of such an incredible team and roster. So that was cool to hear.
Yeah, you can't come into a better situation. It's nice to see him recognize that. It was weird for me. I had flashes of Ray Rice. I mean, he's wearing 27. He moves like Ray. I feel, you know what I mean? A similar build. I think he's a little taller than Ray. But man, he gets me excited. Woo!
Yeah, me too. And let's see, Lamar, he credited Ingram with getting the team fired up, getting them pumped up before the game. He said he gave a great pregame speech. I think we saw kind of a little bit of that in the broadcast. He's just a phenomenal leader. And then he also credited McPhee for giving the defensive speech and getting them pumped up. So we got guys, man. We might not have Ray in there anymore giving his patented speech, who let the dogs out.
With Joe in the back rolling his eyes trying to figure out what he's saying.
But we got some darn good leaders, and they're getting them pumped up. I thought this was cool. Lamar called Andrews the best tight end in the league. He said he's in the top 2, and he ain't 2. I love it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, of course, Andrews came up right after him, and he didn't just say Lamar was the best quarterback in the league. He said Lamar is the best football player in the world, ladies and gentlemen, and he just has the pleasure of having a front row seat to see him play.
Yes, sir.
And he ain't lying. Let me just say this. He ain't wrong.
He ain't wrong. 13 game winning streak in regular season, longest in the NFL right now. Just saying.
There you go. And then also, Andrew says it's kind of a misconception that the Ravens are a running team. And the reason he says that is their game plan is dictated by the defense. If you look at there's countless games where, just like this, where their running attack wasn't the focus of their offense, it was through the air. I mean, we saw countless 2 games where he had 5 touchdowns, no picks last year. We had 2 games where he had perfect quarterback rating, which is the first time ever. This team does what it takes to win, whether it's through the air, through the ground, on the foot of Justin Tucker, whatever it takes, they get W's.
That's right. And that's important for the future, being flexible and pliable, right? Like as an offense, because that's where the Patriots had success. I mean, a great dynasty, and they could transform from one week to the next. They'd run it 40 times, throw it 50 times the next week. So it's absolutely essential to be able to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then when Patrick Queen came up, first thing I noticed, of course, he's wearing a Ray Lewis shirt.
Yes, sir.
He's showing respect for who built this organization, and I loved it. It was a homemade shirt. Not homemade, but I'm sure it was a custom shirt, custom-made shirt for him. And he just wanted to show love and respect to what Ray built, and he looks like the next great inside linebacker in Baltimore.
Whew.
And yeah, I thought that was awesome. Let's see, Calais got the defensive game ball from the Baltimore Ravens. Just so you know, Dick Cass got a game ball as well,
awesome.
which was really cool. And Lamar got the offense's game ball, which is rightfully so. Yes. And also wanted to point out, class act by the Ravens. Mose Rose having, I don't know the final number, an incredible amount.
575.
A Mo Gabba cutouts in the stands. Awesome.
And shout out to all the fans who attributed to that too. There were some donations and things like that made. Shout out, dude, because Mo, I mean, the heart of I love that they had his quote up there: "Make every day a win."
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
what kind of a resilient human being do you have to be? You know what I mean? How awesome is that?
Inspiration, and the piece that the Ravens did with his mother, I'll be honest, your boy was crying when she was finishing painting the MO in the end zone. Your boy was crying. And it's just so cool. It's so classy. I mean, that's one thing. I don't think you'll find a better organization than the Ravens, no matter what sport you look in. Top of the line to me, first class, and I'm proud that I'm a Maryland boy and a Baltimore boy, and I get to watch them continue to be great.
Yep. Before you move on, I just want to say one thing. We are a sports show. The best thing about what I saw, all the pregame, all the focus is on what players are doing in the pregame and all this stuff. But the really cool thing was the statement that Steve Bisciotti said. He said, "We support our players to do what they feel is best in their conscience."
Yep.
Like, that's how it should be. That's what this. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to get political here, but that's how it should be. And that's important for an organization to make a social impact. I think that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Just as an aside, I thought that was great.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, so you got any other press conference clippings for us? Anything from John?
Let's see. I did have something from John. John doesn't give you a whole lot.
Yeah, a lot of coach speak.
Yeah, a lot of coach speak and a lot of, we'll have to look at the tape.
Yeah.
But obviously he gushed about Lamar and the play. He said just another fantastic performance.
Yeah.
Was very impressed with the rookies. But he didn't give me too much. I got a little bit more out of the players than out of John. But obviously very happy, and also the technical difficulties that John was facing. Yeah, that didn't do him any favors.
Come on, John, get it down.
But overall, just an incredible performance. They lived up to the hype. The Ravens were no disappointment. They came into this game with a lot of people, wondering, is this going to look like the first Cleveland game or the second Cleveland game? What are we going to see? How much an advantage is it for the Ravens bringing back the coaches, having a relatively familiar roster? How much is an advantage over the Browns, who are bringing it? It showed to be a pretty big advantage. And if I had to make predictions for the Ravens, it would only be, it would be 14 wins. But for the Browns, looks like it's going to be another long one in the factory of sadness.
Yep. Remember, in week 10, Case Keenum's trotting out, baby. Case Keenum. Man. So let's talk about, just briefly before we give out our game balls here, let's talk about a couple things. While this was an awesome game, I think there's obviously some things that we need to shore up. Mm-hmm. Probably still talk about. So I'm going to point out a couple things, and I want you to kind of, add to them or let me know how you feel about it. I was still concerned a little bit with the pass rush.
Yes.
I felt like, speaking of pass rush, I need to say that it was a boneheaded play by Matt Judon on that pass, on that roughing the passer on Baker. That was like,
you get every freaking
that was
year.
like a 2 count, dude. It wasn't a half count. It was a 1, 2, popped him.
So late.
And I don't even like Baker, that, but it was just dumb. For us as a team, it put us at a disadvantage. But I'm still a little concerned about the pass rush, and there were moments while we managed the run game. I know you're a little higher on it than me. There were moments where we got gashed a little bit, and I think need some work. But those are my takeaways as far as what the Ravens need to do to improve on the defensive side of the ball. I don't have a ton of offensive notes what they need to improve on because they played pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they need to run the ball better. There's no doubt about that. When you look at but
if you're passing that well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But you still want to see better results when you look at the running backs.
Yeah.
I think that I don't want people to read too much into the fact that the Ravens I don't want people to think, well, man, they did a lot less designed runs from Lamar. That must be kind of, that was what a lot of people were predicting going into this season. I wouldn't be so sure that this is going to be a consistent game plan. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Lamar take 15 carries next week. And because I just think that they will do whatever they think it needs to be done to get the win. But at the same time, 10 carries for 29 yards for Mark Ingram is unacceptable, and that needs to get better. And I'm interested to see how Stanley's ankle is. I was encouraged the fact that he was standing on the sideline, not wearing his helmet, not sitting, and not in the back.
So MRI or anything like that.
Right. So that's at least encouraging. But if he is to miss a game, now we start having problems, because while Fluker is certainly a quality backup, he's not the all-pro left tackle that Stanley is. So that's a little bit concerning. Let's see how monitor that over the week and see how that goes. Dobbins 7 for 22. That doesn't bother me because a few of his carries were goal line carries. He ended up getting touchdowns, so you can't get a ton of yards when you're only running from the 2.
Right.
But other than that, as far as the passing game, there's no complaints. So really, the only issues I had were on the ground, and then that you take about with one big rush by Chubb, which to me was because Calais was late getting on and maybe some confusion. Maybe he didn't get the call. You take that away, they were good against the run too. So pretty overall dominant performance, and I'm pretty happy. How are you feeling?
Yeah, look, you know how I'm feeling. I got purple Kool-Aid coming straight from the IV right here, baby.
Right there.
I'm feeling great. I mean, man, I think I woke the dead on that first touchdown. I'm just screaming and, look, I got 2 feet of brick wall between my neighbor and I, and I'm pretty sure they still heard me loud and clear.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm feeling good. I am worried about the Stanley injury, as you mentioned. He's a tough guy, but we don't want him compromised. It is a luxury to have a guy like DJ Fluker that can be there and at least be big and physically imposing. Yeah. And it's also a luxury to have a guy like Lamar who
makes everyone better.
Right, exactly. So let's do this. Why don't we give out our game balls if you don't have any other injury notes per se?
No, that was it. Just the Stanley one. My game ball, it's got to be Lamar Jackson on the offensive end. 275 yards passing, only 5 incompletions, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and then obviously 7 carries for 45 on the ground. What can you say? Another masterful performance by the best player in the league.
Yes, sir. The best player in the league. You heard it. One more time. The best player in the league. And we're going to look, if you guys have been with us since the pod, Glenn went out there, said he was going to be the MVP runnings in our prediction last year, and then doubled down, said he's going to win the MVP before anyone was talking about it.
Yep.
So you heard it here. He's the best player in the league. I will give my game ball, though, to Calais Campbell, out there playing like a kid, as in joyful and excited, loose and fast and physical, had a serious impact on the game. I'm really excited to see what he does as he gets more comfortable with his teammates, more familiar. He seems to just really, like you were talking about from the beginning, he's really taken over that leadership role, and it's just exciting. He makes guys happy and confident and fun and positive. And so, but he also, accountable as well. So That's where my game ball goes. I cannot wait till next week, Houston Texans. But we are going to do a couple things this week, of course, guys. So stay tuned. We are going to have a guest from Houston, from the Houston Texans media, come on the show. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We'll have that out. We'll also do our week 1 recap after the Monday. Today's Sunday, of course. We'll do the week 1 recap after the week 1 is over. We need to review our pick'ems and talk about the NFL as a league. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe. If you want to have some input about what we talk about on the show, as I mentioned, check the link out in the description as well for our Patreon, and we will be back soon.
See you.